The mainstream entertainment media is basically an enormous joke, and they're a bunch of hypocrites. Recently, we had the Netflix controversy with their documentary series about Cleopatra being a queen of Egypt, and we had some not true to life interpretations of who that character is. And for that, Screen Rant really didn't do anything. Yes, they did run a bunch of articles talking about how it wasn't performing well. They even did a top 5 list of things that they didn't get right in the series. Of course, the race of the starring character wasn't one of them. But now they're upset about Aladdin, a movie that came out like 30 years ago because of the voice actors not being the right skin tone for the characters. It's absolutely ridiculous. And here talking about that is Aaron Sparrow. How you doing, Aaron?
I mean, I'd be doing a lot better if mainstream journalism wasn't a bunch of idiots.
I think we would all be doing much better. Why does everyone in the media just like, they have to look at everything from 30, 40, 50, 70, 100, 1,000 years ago through the same lens as we're looking at society today, as if nothing was different back then?
It's all about robbing you of things that you enjoy. There's an undercurrent in our society to just tear down the past, tear down everything that was enjoyable, and just make everything this homogenous future that they want to march us into. You know, it doesn't matter if the voice actors behind the animated characters are the same skin tone or the same race or the same sexuality as the characters on the screen. It's called acting for a reason, that you choose the best person for the job. We see this in comics. We see this in entertainment. They're choosing people based on surface traits instead of choosing people who can do the job the best, or at least very well. And it's why we're getting diminishing returns. It's why it's a big reason comics are in trouble. It's a big reason entertainment's in trouble. People are just tired of it. You know, it doesn't ring true. You can't cast everything with Los Angeles metropolitan diversity. It doesn't work in every story. And, you know, I'm not against representation and diversity in entertainment, but there's a logical way to do it, and then there's a ham-fisted way to do it.
Absolutely. And when it's ham-fisted, you start getting resentful. You're like, again. And you know what? And Aladdin's not my favorite movie. I'm not going to go out there and be like, oh, I'm the champion of Aladdin. You know, when they did the remake, I was outraged. I didn't know why they made it. You know, but I did like Aladdin growing up. It has one of the best comedic performances in the history of the world from Robin Williams as the genie, and it's got some great original songs to it, and it's a good story. You know, a nice story to follow through there. And, you know, and it stands up to the test of time as far as animated films. You know, Aladdin's a good movie. I prefer The Lion King, but there's no denying that. But still, when I see this stuff like this, eventually you just got to say no more. I've had enough of this shit.
Yeah, and you know, and to praise Aladdin a little further, Jasmine is the best princess. So, the best Disney princess. So, you know, and you got a cool bad guy with Jafar. He turns into a big cobra at the end. How can you not love that? And, you know, when you go to the live action version, I didn't know why they were doing it either, but, you know, they cast that appropriately, and they should, because live on screen, you know, you want to see Aladdin as an Arabic man. You know, that makes sense. If it was a white guy running around, if they cast Tom Cruise, who the original kind of model was designed off of.
Persia.
Yeah, that was a little weird, you know.
Gods of Egypt, you're going...
Well, you know, when you're dealing with gods, like, I don't care if you mix up the gods so much. It's kind of why I didn't mind them switching Heimdall and switching, you know, and at least they got good actors to portray those characters. But yeah, when you're doing,
they didn't.
Well, yeah, that's true. You know, I was going more towards Heimdall. Although I like Nicholas Coster, whatever his last name is. I do like him as an actor. Watched a good movie with him the other day where his daughter had been kidnapped, and yeah, that was pretty good. But yeah, it's just one of those things that people are rejecting, and they're tired of the media pushing it. Digital media is completely collapsing, and so all these things are thrown out there for clickbait. You know, it's just, I did it for the clicks, baby. I did it for the clicks. You just don't have anybody reading them, and the reason we're not reading you is because you are biased. You are, you know, agendized. You are not journalists. You are activists, and we don't care to read your activism. So they're getting more and more desperate, so they have to put out more and more bullshit articles like this.
If you don't believe Aaron, this was one of the things that they brought up. Aladdin and Jasmine are voiced by white voice actors. One of the biggest problems in the film is that Aladdin and Jasmine, both Arab characters, are voiced by white actors. Aladdin is voiced by Scott Weinger, best known for playing Steve Hale on Full House, while Linda Larkin voices Jasmine, the Filipina singer Leah Salonga doing Jasmine's vocals. This is extremely problematic, and many found it offensive when the film came out.
No,
Disney should have remained true to the character's ethnicity by having Arab voice actors take on the roles. Nobody ever mentioned this when the movie came out. They thought, wow, that's a really good movie. And let's not act like the box office 30 years ago was like it is today. You know, basically you were making a movie for Americans and some Europeans. Shockingly, you might want to have your main actors with American accents that the kids are going to be able to actually understand.
Yeah.
This
yeah,
isn't a fucking documentary.
No, it's not like, and you're not presenting it as a docuseries like Cleopatra, which they, I don't remember. Did this outlet have complaints about that? Did they post articles about how that was wrong? No, of course they didn't, because it only goes one way. It only goes one way. It only goes when white people are, acting in the roles. Then you get upset. And, I have friends who are voice actors who are, of different ethnicities and things like that, different religions. And, there is a need to kind of level some of the playing field so that they have those opportunities. But, the people that I know that do that are and are part of that, part of different ethnicities that go out for those roles. They're actually very good. So they get roles not only based on their ethnicity, but they get roles based on their talent. And when they play white roles, or they play black roles, or they play, a role that's, different than their skin color, different than their, their ethnic background, there's none of these articles get run. We don't get to hear how problematic it is because, like I said, it only goes one way.
Well, it pisses me off that, they're trying to run down a Filipino singer that did the vocals on that. Do you know how poor everyone is here? She needed the gig, man. Why are you trying to take food out of her family's mouth?
Yeah, and why are you trying to shame her retroactively 30 years later? It's just so that you can get some eyes on your stupid article on your stupid website that's about to go under. What'd you get paid for that great article? Did you get paid $5 to write that? Because I know what the rates are for this digital media nonsense.
Definitely not $5. This is the next big complaint. Aladdin has an offensive portrayal of the villainous character. There are many offensive portrayals in Aladdin, but the villains may be the worst. While Aladdin and Jasmine, the heroes of the film, were portrayed as attractive, the greedy street merchants were given heavy Arabic accents and unattractive facial features. The same goes with Aladdin's main villain, Jafar, who has a much darker skin tone than Aladdin and Jasmine. Jafar and his sidekick, Gazib, also have non-American accents, unlike Aladdin and Jasmine. So what is the problem? That Aladdin and Jasmine don't have Arabic accents? Because now you're pissed that the other characters do have them.
It's almost like there's no consistency to their argument and they just want to be offended. I wonder why that is.
Isn't it shocking that a villainous character wouldn't be portrayed as being as attractive as the main hero of the story?
There's such a thing as visual shorthand, especially when you're making movies for kids. When Jafar walks on the screen, you want kids to understand that he's the bad guy, and visually immediately by drawing him with villainous features, his little goatee with the little, just
Pointy
everything
nose, the little mustache. Yes.
All the things that are typically, associated with movie villains are present in Jafar. His too wide grin, that gives him like a creepy appearance. These are all visual shorthand to let you know who this character is. And the merchants are drawn to look sleazy. They're drawn to look sleazy and greedy, and they're rubbing their hands, because they want to cheat you out of your money. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's ridiculous to think that because villains are drawn villainous, that there's a problem.
Well, in the author of the article, listen, Disney only makes movies for you now. All the things that you think are important, Disney thinks are important now. Is it so surprising that 30 years ago they didn't make movies for some like cat lady in 2023? They couldn't, just visualize like some lady in her 50s was going to be upset when they made this movie. Well, think about what was happening when this came out and who the audience was.
Yeah, and think about the results of the box office of that movie as opposed to the movies you're getting today that are for you and your 12 weird friends on Twitter that obsess about this sort of thing. It's why Disney's making money, is because they're appealing to you and your sensibilities and your worries about what's problematic instead of focusing on just making good entertaining films. This is what you're getting. You should be happy. Cinema is destroyed because of what you want and what you want in movies. And movies are going to largely go away. You're going to see even less roles for people because there's going to be less movies made. So congratulations. This is the fallout of your stupid agenda.
The next thing she has to say, Aladdin's portrayal of the Middle East is inaccurate. Filmmakers didn't do enough research when creating the landscape of Aladdin. The film has been criticized for having a European view of the Middle East instead of an accurate portrayal of the region. Critics have also said Aladdin doesn't accurately portray the Middle East or North African culture, which is where Aladdin takes place. It seems Disney used some basic, uneducated knowledge when creating the world of Aladdin. Where does Aladdin take place? Certainly it's in the Middle East, but it's not in a specific country. It's in the historically. It should be, Agrabah is obviously a real place, and then it should be as historically accurate as Wakanda is. That's what they're going for here. So Disney, an American company, is making a kids movie for a bunch of American kids and European kids
based on Arabian Nights, based on a piece of fiction.
Based on Arabian Nights, a piece of fiction, without an accurate or a true landscape. And they're upset that there's a European view of it. Like, what would you expect? If they made a movie about some American kids playing baseball, but it was produced in Saudi Arabia, I would think that would be a Middle Eastern view of North American culture, since it was actually made for Middle Eastern people.
Yeah, I would think that they would put things in that would be appealing to that audience. Much as when when manga is brought over here, a lot of times there's little minor changes that are made to make the cultural changes that are made to make it more accessible, or there's jokes that work in other cultures that don't work here, and vice versa. So there's shorthand that you have to do in telling a story that will work here that won't work elsewhere, and vice versa. So this is the process of movie making, and this is the process of making a product that appeals to a mass audience as opposed to a niche audience. But these idiots want everything just boiled down to the most niche audience possible, and that's why all of these things, from comics to TV series to movies, are dying and are not making any money, because you're no longer making things to have a broad appeal. You're making them to have a very small appeal to a very small amount of people who are complaining about it and don't have the money to support it anyway.
And I think that's one of the big differences between why Disney was successful there. And you're talking about like the renaissance of Disney and why it's failing now. Aladdin is not there to teach your children about Middle Eastern culture. It's there to entertain them with some great songs, a really fun adventure story that happens to take place in some place you've never ever been. It's very fantastical elements to it. Modern Disney is all about teaching your children, trying to influence them, doing everything but entertain them. And because of dipshits like this lady, they're being very unsuccessful. But she's happy because now we're getting accurate representation of Wakanda.
And losing tons of money doing it. It's fantastic. I think the biggest complaint that she would have about Aladdin is that the fact that the sorcery was not historically accurate. They didn't turn into giant cobras, Wes. They turned into giant griffins. So, it's completely, what a farce. It's this. We shouldn't even. I mean, honestly, it's fun to come on here and make fun of this and make fun of this dumb cat lady or very very effeminate dude that's writing this article and wringing his hands. Aladdin from 30 years ago isn't historically accurate. It's fun to come on and do that, but honestly, these people should be shunned. Their articles should not be read. We should just ignore them for the absolute imbeciles that they are.
Well, I do want to end this on a high note, because this one doesn't have anything about the characters being white or whatever. Jasmine isn't very empowering as a female character. In Aladdin, Jasmine isn't allowed to decide for herself what she wants for her life and is expected to marry at only 16 years old. Jasmine relies on Aladdin to free her from her castle, and the only way her father allows her freedom is when she marries Aladdin at the end of the movie. Jasmine has also received criticism for being overly sexualized. Needless to say, Disney didn't do a great job creating an empowering princess for young girls to look up to. The movie's not called Jasmine. It's called Aladdin. The story is of Aladdin, and the princess obviously is a part of that story. One of the key elements is how she's like in bondage by her position in the royal family. That's what's holding her back.
Also, so which is it that you want? Do you want historical accuracy, or do you want a woman in a Muslim culture at that time, in that time period, to be empowered and make her own decisions? And which is it? Because you're complaining that they didn't represent the culture properly. And then you're saying that, Jasmine should be this empowered character. And I think she is a very empowered character within the context of, her restraints. I think that she's great. She's one of the very first headstrong princesses that Disney had. She's stubborn. She wants her way. The culture just won't allow it. But in the end, she does fall in love, and she gets married, and she doesn't have to get married off to some other country's prince, to form alliances, or it is actually a pretty progressive version of a character from that time period. So again, this is just a stupid complaint, and it contradicts their other complaints. These people Absolutely. Have no internal consistency whatsoever.
I believe that Prince William is the first member of the royal family in England that was allowed to marry someone that was a commoner. He didn't actually just get married off to somebody else from another royal family. That's how things happen. You're a bargaining chip, especially if you're a female.
Mm-hmm. We can argue about whether that's right or wrong, and we can do that all day, but that is historically accurate, and that's what you were asking for at the beginning of this article. So, in the words of Dave Chappelle, you've got some options, and one of them is you could
shut the fuck up.
We did mention during the video how they did have this Cleopatra documentary from Netflix that is supposed to be a documentary series about Cleopatra's life that wasn't historically accurate at all. But of course, Screen Rant wasn't upset by that. But me and Aaron did come onto the show and we talked about why it was different to make a documentary series from a damn cartoon and why this was absolute BS. Definitely check this out right here. There's also a link in the video description.